Just to amuse you, you can follow the story of Joseph Ruddy, one of the nation's most prolific federal narcotics prosecutors from Florida. Because in the hands of his ilk lies our future well-being and practice of law in continuum. While they don the Teflon shroud, the incompetence and insolence are impossible to hide. An American Bar Association is deathly quiet. Once more. May God have mercy on us all. Attorney General Merrick Garland would need divine help for what he's lumbered with in performance of his obligations with dignity and honor. His personal and professional qualities are not open to challenge, for he has always appeared to serve with dignity and honor. The word that comes repeatedly to mind is racketeering. And they are the ones who run the country. And its shadows are ever spreading, just in case you hadn't noticed. The irony of it all. To serve and protect. Let justice be done though heaven falls. Okay, dudes and dudettes, who the fuck are you kidding? Yourselves? The American dream, or a never-ending nightmare, is the question that raises its ugly head time and again. And here comes the season for elections and putrefied garbage on bought and paid for media time. Just like everything else in the country, everything is for sale. Bought and probably paid for in kind or with favor. You can amuse yourself with the story of 96-year-old Judge Pauline Newman. She has served on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit for 39 years. She was suspended. Chief Circuit Judge Kimberly Moore determined she was no longer able to perform her job, according to court documents. Unfortunately, earlier this year, mounting evidence raised increasing doubts about whether Judge Newman is still fit to perform the duties of her office. When such evidence is brought to the attention of the Chief Judge and the Judicial Council, there is an obligation to investigate the matter. The Judicial Council of the Federal Circuit wrote in a court order, the evidence establishes reasonable concerns that Judge Newman suffers from a disability preventing her from effectively discharging the duties of her office. End quote. That's what the council wrote in a court order. Question: how long she has been suffering from the unstated inability no one cared to mention. Lawyers for Newman also allege that the process itself and the proposed sanctions are unconstitutional. The choice of words. I'm trying to stay calm because the rage is going through the roof. Sole power of impeachment lies with the Congress, so they state. Not so, said Samuel Alito. I hope U.S. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito is listening. Newman received a lifetime appointment by then-President Ronald Reagan in 1984. If you all still do not feel as the damned, then be damned, and may God have mercy on your soul. Members of the US bars are exempt, for they do not possess a soul. What is given to the devil is for the devil to keep. Hats off to all those who asked the very same question, who do I turn to, and then departed with their heads held high after realizing that their self-respect was always there, and despair is just a part of life and everyday living. And they told me, I'm a pretty good counselor, mental health counselor, psychotherapist, psychologist, the best they came across. Why can't they be more like me? Why don't I go and work with the VA? Why don't VA hire me? Why don't the state ask me to set up programs? Blah, blah, blah. States and country is trying to bury me. 10 years and more. I ain't dead yet. So, how you deal with daily dilemmas is a choice one must make in front of their reflection, in front of a mirror. I have repeatedly been accused of holding the cleanest mirror one can find and left the subject with no place to hide. I'm proud of that fact. And I also feel blessed and honored. If you feel like causing harm to yourself or others, then pause, give me a moment, and listen to what I am about to share with you. I have long shed all the tears allocated to me. Yes, allocated to me. Feeling sorry for me has never been part of my script, and despite some of the biggest challenges thrown and wrongs done to me, I am still standing and standing tall. As for others, I only have one message. We are only limited by the limits we impose on ourselves. The key to freedom is always within our grasp. All one must do is to wake up, get off their sorry ass, and find the door to freedom. For the wrongdoers, I have never given space to hide or dodge their reflections. Without much ado, here it goes, but first things first. I was having a haircut, and as the conversation progressed, strangers began asking questions and felt intrigued by my travels and mutterings, to say the least. Nothing but negatives were being shared when a lady shared a moment of epiphany and asked of me, "Did you ever pause to think that you did not come here of your choosing, but sent here?" The coldest shiver one can imagine ran down my spine. Yes, I do have a backbone, and a very strong one, as you will eventually realize. There's a case in Atlanta. It is one of the largest school cheating scandals in US history. 2 years ago, or so it says. But that does not seem correct, because that was in March 2013. 35 people were indicted. Since then, 21 have been allowed to make plea agreements, and 2 have died of cancer. By the end of this month, a dozen remain awaiting the verdict from the jury. They cheated, they lied, and they stole. John Floyd, the prosecutor, told the jurors in his closing statement, one teacher was acquitted. Asked if he thought his office did the right thing in accepting plea deals from other 21 of the 35 indicted educators, Paul Howard, Fulton County District Attorney, said, "Oh yeah, we absolutely did the right thing." One plea deals helped make it clear that the accusations of racketeering were not some fantasy created by the DA's office, and made it easy for people to recognize that something bad happened, he said. A 2011 report by two special investigators found that 178 teachers and principals of 44 schools had cheated. The 800-page report found that teachers at some Atlanta schools were erasing wrong answers and replacing them with correct ones. Better test scores on state tests resulted in performance bonuses for teachers and principals. The cheating had been going on so long we considered it part of our jobs. Jackie Parks, a former third-grade teacher at Venetian Hills Elementary School and witness for the prosecution, told the New York Times in 2013. According to her, cheating had been going on since at least 2004. The 2011 report found that cheating might have occurred as early as 2001. In 2013, racketeering and corruption charges were filed. I still have to make an argument and a case that I am fighting absolute filth from top to bottom. What the kids told me, the kids who were kids in the 60s, they were taught to cheat by their teachers, by their lecturers, because that's the way of life. Welcome to the US. So says the DA here. So say the former attorneys general. So says retired judges off camera. But nobody wants to sit at this podcast with me and state the truth. 82 have confessed to cheating. Just another small one to go with, a little snippet. September 7, 2023, Waynesboro, Georgia. A county employee's DUI charge seemingly disappeared more than a year ago, after Burke County Sheriff Alfonso Williams is heard saying he did not send the case forward. It's wonderful how these statements come out. Assistant Attorney General Kirsten Clark of the Justice Department Civil Rights Division, she's supposed to be investigating, and she's the same Attorney General, Assistant Attorney General, who wrote to Senator Ossoff's office stating no federal crime had been committed in my case, and she was closing the file. Have you people been listening to me? Just click on the goddamn documents. They're all court documents. Look at the pleadings and look at the defense. Absolute garbage for defense. Wait till you see the court orders, then you will see how the vultures, all the judges, all the judiciary, all the members of the law profession, how one after the other, they came barking at me. Every time I took a step forward, they came barking at me and they attacked me. Read the statements. Pure filth. Another example. The Office of Public Affairs of the Department of Justice announced on Wednesday, July 27, 2022, that former Minneapolis police officer Tu Tao, 36, sentenced to serve 42 months in prison, and former Minneapolis police officer J. Alexander Quang, 28, was sentenced to serve 36 months in prison for depriving George Floyd Jr. of his constitutional rights. Okay, take a moment, pause. Racketeering. When attorneys and judges and members of the state bar are members of the executive, including the gubernatorial office, who are aware of criminal acts, including the staff of Department of Justice and Department of Law, it is racketeering, a collective of criminals depriving an individual of his constitutional rights. I will give you a report at the end of it, the final podcast. Each individual I will mention and I will state what transpired. The same law that applies to these officers for standing by and doing nothing applies to them too. Teflon coated or not, tough shit. Somebody needs to get off their ass and apply the law. Constitution is not a toilet brush to clean the shit out of your toilet bowl. Just because you do not have any self-respect does not mean you desecrate. That you desecrate the books, the words that public takes to heart when they seek justice from morons, from criminals in robes. The order moves forward stating, former officers Tao and Quang each had an individual duty and opportunity to intervene in the excessive force that resulted in the agonizing death of Mr. Floyd, but both men failed to take any action, said U.S. Attorney Andrew M. Luger for the District of Minnesota. Okay, you dumb attorneys, members of the state bars. Let me remind you, before you could file an application to take the bar exam, you had to submit a certificate of moral competence. Then you had to be a signatory to the Code of Ethics as put forward and stated by the state bar of each and every state. Candor, dignity, respect. You are at all times bound by your oath. Whether you are a third-rate attorney or a so-called judge who would not know the first thing about judicial office and its practices. Code of Ethics, that's what's being narrated. You, I am alleging, are collaborators in all that has been mentioned before. Hence, racketeering. Really, are you that stupid? Your own statements are coming back at you and you're ducking and diving? Let me remind you, young man Ahmaud Arbery, out there jogging. I've been through Brunswick. It's one of those towns that time has forgotten. That's what it felt to me. Dead towns. God bless him, he was out there jogging. His death brought to light the role lawyers, law enforcement agencies, and especially the state of Georgia, what they were supposed to do but did not do, because it's common practice. As stated before, people take it for granted. It's common practice. It must be law. We can get away with it. Let's do a bit of lynching. Let's do a bit of this. Hey, we are Teflon coated. Whether we are white, whether we are lawyers, whether we are judges, who the F is going to touch us? Isn't that right, Samuel Alito? And the rest of you gang of thieves and rats sitting up there? I used to respect you. I used to hold my head high. You people, you have really brought disgrace and muddled my mind. You can never be forgotten, because I love law. I love to live by the law. I love people. I love the good in people. I am hurt, I'm angry, and I ain't dead. So here it goes. state of Georgia did not uphold the constitutional rights of the late Ahmaud Arbery. If it were not for the unending and untiring efforts of his devoted mom, God bless you, Madam Wanda Cooper Jones, the case would have been buried like many hundreds and thousands before this case came to light. Her resilience brought to light the injustices in the name of color and creed, and more important, the scant regard officialdom of the state of Georgia has for the name of law and an individual's constitutional rights. This also plagues the nation, as numerous cases in recent years have come to light and continue to do so. Such is the incompetence and corruption within the Department of Law, the state judiciary, the JQC, and all affiliated and associated with the establishment, or the element as it is often referred to. They are so incompetent. They are such criminals. And yet they are so stupid. They even leave their grandma's knickers behind in evidence when they are challenged. It's an understatement to say that it stinks from here to high heaven. The ex-prosecutor accused of interfering with investigation into Ahmaud Arbery's killing, still out there. As are the rest of them. The entire team, they moved around. They moved from county to other. So who did they pick on? Jackie Johnson, the former Georgia prosecutor, indicted on misconduct charges, alleging she used her position to shield the man who chased and killed Ahmaud Arbery from being charged with crimes immediately after the shootings. Boo-hoo. What about the rest of the scum? So the grand jury in coastal Glynn County indicted former Brunswick Judicial Circuit District Attorney Jackie Johnson on a felony count of violating her oath of office and hindering a law enforcement officer, a misdemeanor. Senior Assistant Attorney General Shaylin Nelson, I'm accusing you, I'm alleging of the same. Senior Assistant Attorney General Shaylin Nelson, you are being accused of the same by I. You repeatedly violated your oath of office and hindered a legal process. I will come back to you and the rest of you by name and narrate what exactly you people did. Soon. It's coming. This indictment resulted from an investigation Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr requested last year into local prosecutors' handling of Arbery's slaying after a cell phone video of the shooting and a delay in charges sparked a national outcry. Here's the irony. It's the very same Attorney General whose office is full of scum. Yes, S-C-U-M, scum, for Assistant Attorneys General. Shaylin Nelson, Brian Turnus, how does it sound? Oh, I can make it all stick. Oh, Miss Betsy Cohen, I will not forget you. You and Brian Turnus made a fine team. You dragged your code of ethics through the toilet bowl repeatedly. I will narrate very, very clearly what I have to say. Ahmaud Arbery's mom single-handedly fought. There were no black pastors. There was no Al Sharpton. They all turn up after the feast has been cooked and the table is laid out. Oh yes, they do. They're very good at that. We the good people. Here's the irony. Chris Carr goes on to state, while an indictment was returned today, our file is not closed and we will continue to investigate in order to pursue justice, Carr, a Republican, said in a statement. Very same Chris Carr I've tried to bring to his notice, seeking a meeting, including my attorneys, to tell him what filth lies beneath him. Look under your wobbly ass, look at the shit you're sitting atop. Nope. We don't do that. No response. We'll come to it at the end. In 2017, 2 white men in Georgia were arrested for a cold case murder. They were arrested for dragging an innocent black man to death in Georgia. They had the audacity to brag of dragging a black man to death. Yes, they bragged about it. So, I'm following a story from December 1, 2017. They are accused of dragging a black man to his death behind a pickup truck. And they're going before a grand jury. Brothers-in-law, William Moore Sr. and Frank Gebhardt, appeared Thursday in magistrate court for a probable cause hearing in which a judge decided there was enough evidence against the men to proceed. Gebhardt and Moore face a felony murder charge in the 1983 death of 23-year-old Timothy Coggins. GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation Special Agent Jared Coleman testified that whatever the reason, race was a factor. The judge eventually agreed there was enough evidence to proceed. Coggins' family said hearing the new details for the first time was hard on all of them. You bet. The South has done this for 300 years and more. They've had a lot of practice and they're still doing it. Now the blacks are even aiding and abetting it. Racketeering, 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 racketeering. Can you hear me now? Extremely difficult to hear, to hold your tears, to hold your emotions, to contain your emotions, listening to gruesome details of a loved one. That was by himself, said Coggins' niece, Heather Coggins. By himself, all alone. Still fighting single-handed. Good white dudes, good black dudes, whatever. And the brown ones in between? Yeah, pull the chain down the toilet. Historically, the law industry has dragged the Constitution through muck and mire for the benefit of the few, and without checks and balances that are necessary for the practice of law in a civilized world. The U.S. appears to have abandoned all values and principles of decency to follow its own biblical process of American commandments and values unbeknown to common people. For they are neither stated nor proven in front of the populace. The mythical unicorn of justice and American values is forever absent from the public gaze.